Cost of Victory, Book 1 of the Unseen Scar series by C.R. Saxon. Chapter 26. Is Elby in? Zhao towered over the 6-year-old who answered the door. The boy craned his head up. Let me get him. Thanks. High giggles floated from behind Zhao while they waited. See, there's no reason to hide, Rura. We're weird, but we're mostly the same as you. They passed some energists flying around, moving heavy rocks. It scared her, so Zhao thought he'd introduce her to some of the younger children. The second-year girls were excited to meet her. Now for the boys. Most of the classifications were represented between the second-year boys and girls. He'd show her they were fun, and not scary at all. Zhao, you're the giant at the door? A grin and mismatched eyes greeted the lead. If you want giants, go see John's brothers, Zhao chuckled. Is that your sister? Elby pointed to the half-hidden girl. Yeah, this is Rura. Rura, this is Elby. He's also one of mine. Zhao spoke proudly, pushing his sister forward. The second-year girls are meeting us for some games to show my sister what being Gus is like. I was hoping you boys would join. Elby bowed to the girl and smiled. Sounds fun. I'll ask my sweet mates, but I'm helping Yu with an experiment before dinner. That's fine. I'll get John to cook so you have an incentive to come back. You're so mean, Elby pouted, making Rura giggle again. We're meeting at the cliff-jumping spot along the southern beach in 30 minutes. I've got snacks and lunch taken care of. Zhao winked, picked up his sister and swung her around, the hall filled with high giggles and deep laughter. See you there. There's no winning, Ferdinand whispered to his reflection. The skeleton scrutinized every inch of his body. The Duchess would have noticed how much weight he'd gained and accused him of being willful and selfish. But his aunt, his general? She'd take one look at him and he wasn't sure what to expect. Lectures he could take, but if she ended up being like John, he couldn't handle that much food. The last time, what happened then? It was shortly after his little sister's birth. I was 7. He'd finally gotten to where he didn't crave fighting. It was at the beach after Saphir's rite of ascension ceremony. The general wanted to play with her nieces and nephews before returning to work. I remember, she had a fit. That was the first time he'd seen adults openly argue, and it was grand. Proportionally, he looked the same now. I don't want to repeat that, but she refused to let him out of today's activities. Playing on the beach was the adult's decision. Water was something Ferdinand generally avoided. His swimsuit hung loosely at his waist, even cinched as tight as it would go. I don't want anyone to see me. There was more than his protruding bones. Various pink and white scars marred his skin. They looked ghastly stretched against his ribs. Ferdinand's back was worse. All the knobs of his spine disgusted him and emphasized the last batch of gashes he'd earned. Though healed, the scars were still new, still fresh. Sighing, the skeleton pinned his suit, finishing right before the Dinta barged in. Whoa, it's me, stop! Panting erratically, Ferdinand scrambled away from whatever was in front of him. Slowly, his ally came into focus, along with the welts on John's arm and a swelling eye. See? It's okay. John spoke again once Ferdinand started calming down. This wasn't the first time. Violent nightmares plagued him for over a month. 2 days ago, Bayer had to heal a rib he'd cracked. Pushing himself to his feet, Ferdinand gasped, I'm sorry, and dashed for the hallway. John's silent disappointment sparked Ferdinand to pull on his shirts while the Dinta preened in the mirror. Do you usually do that? Ferdinand shook his head and grabbed a screen. Do what? Wear multiple layers of clothes. Doesn't matter? Shame forced those blue crystals down. I was just curious. You're old enough to decide what you wear. What are you doing? Enthusiastic giggles burst forth. Oya watched John leap and her friend fall backward at her sudden appearance. That was mean. Ferdinand rubbed at his hip, answering her in Ondo. Aren't you supposed to dress appropriately for the water? I am. I'm also dressed appropriately for outside the water, Ferdinand said, pulling on another shirt and eyeing a fifth. How did you get in here? The door locks automatically. Oya opened her mouth, then noticed John's annoyed stance, so she switched to common. Figure it, I'll let you out on your own. I know you love a good challenge. I've had it up to here with challenges. Ferdinand didn't correct her, just raised his hand as high as he could. Warning, they're on their way. Should be knocking any minute now. Approaching her friend, Oya ran a finger along a new string attached to his chest. This one was different. The others were dull or subdued, save the one cheerful yellow. But this one, it was a bright, vibrant green, just like the new eyes she saw every time she passed a mirror. Running her finger, she traced it. The string stopped a foot from Oya's chest. Moving out of the way, it followed her, desperate to reach her. But it ended a foot short. Why? After a moment's consideration, it made sense. People grew attached to things that couldn't form attachments all the time. How was this any different than a soldier whose most trusted ally was his weapon? Humans were irrational this way. Her little entourage of orbs seemed to vibrate at that thought. He isn't the only irrational one. Are you here to warn me, or do you want to greet them? Oya winked, returning to Ondo. Call me the scout. Your aunt's excited. She doesn't get to relax often, huh? That's the price of being one of the world's most powerful leaders. Ferdinand picked up the screen he dropped. Even here she's high profile. Better your aunt than me, I suppose. A knock came, and Oya was gone. I guess I'll see you there. Ferdinand's shoulders slumped. Why? Why am I disappointed? She vanished, leaving him cold, hollow. Turning, he was bombarded with an annoyed look from John. What? Irritation creased the dentist's face, but John shook his head. Nothing. Moments later they were abducted by the adults and hauled away. The two boys set up, while Oya distracted everyone with her usual silliness. What are you doing? John towered over Ferdinand, who lounged under an umbrella, flicking through a screen. Maintaining my complexion. Sarcasm dripped from Ferdinand's tongue. Please, my brain is bursting with nonsense. John looked at Oya. I doubt that'll change. Here's hoping. Ferdinand went back to his reading. It'd taken a while, but he loaded the literature from her cube onto his screen. Now to find an interesting title. Just having this in his hands. The kind of comfort that comes from familiarity filled him. If only people were this wonderful to be around. While scrolling, he wondered how Oya kept people from noticing her. I need to learn that. It was inexplicable how adept she was at controlling people's attention. No one noticed her when she didn't want to be noticed, and no one could ignore her when she wanted their attention. He envied that talent. What's her ability? Could a psych manipulate people's perceptions so perfectly? Hours of blissful solitude followed. It was just Ferdinand, and a curious little story about a mechanical man. Then the others got hungry. Everyone rushed over. John prepared lunch, while the adults talked. Oya sat beside Ferdinand, drawing pictures in the sand. This is pleasant. Even lunch wasn't too bad. No one pestered him about how much he ate. Neither did they notice Oya pick off his plate. He gave her a questioning look, but she only winked. This is too good to last. But he'd enjoy it as long as it did. True to his luck, the piece of being generally ignored ended after lunch. Tanalia called for a swimming race. Everyone jumped up and ran for the water. Everyone except Ferdinand. He just wanted to wrap himself in the mechanical man's journey. A shadow fell, drawing his attention. Above him, his aunt stared down, looking cross. Quickly he knelt before her. I was nice and let you lay around earlier. Now it's time to play. You're in desperate need of sun, child, and social interaction. Taking his hand, she pulled him to his feet, sending searing white flames through his arm. Get out of those clothes. It's time to swim. Yes, Lady General, as you wish. Ferdinand kept his head down. This was harder now that he'd grown. Whoever decided all heads should be lower than the rulers wasn't a tall person. It didn't help that athletes, fighters in particular, tended to be small. He waited for her to move, but she didn't. Don't keep your aunt waiting, dear child. Look, your friends are waiting too. Shaking, Ferdinand stripped down to his suit and one shirt. He stumbled toward the water, tripping over his own feet multiple times. Please be enough to appease her. Maybe I should insist on some grace classes before he kills himself.